Live with Julie.
Hi, Julie.
Hello, hello. How's it
Hey,
going?
thanks for being here. Hey, we had Julie in a few months back to just talk with us about some really great general things. She is the owner of Green Oak Accounting and recently authored a book called Profit First for Therapists, and also a podcast host for her show where she just drops a lot of amazing content, processes, tips, hosts some guests and various things to help our community of private practice owners and her community of private practice owners develop better principles, mindsets, and formulations, whether it comes from the accounting, the tax side of things, or just money mindset, and a whole lot of other stuff. So as we explore some deeper things with Julie today, I just want to officially welcome you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me again.
Did we miss anything on the introduction?
Yeah. What else is there? Tell
you hit the important points. So I'm an accountant. I think we didn't say that, but first and foremost, I think that frames right. I'm one of those people who loves numbers and loves accounting and tax. I'm the owner of Green Oak Accounting. I host the Therapy for Your Money podcast. And Josh, just recorded an episode a couple of weeks ago. And my book is coming out very, very soon. Profit First for Therapists, and that's the topic of our conversation today. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, so I know you came with some prepared material, but before we kind of like do the heavy deep dive, a couple things for anyone who's listening. Number one, as we go today, please drop questions for Julie along the way. We'll get a chance to answer them, so please, stick around during and towards the end where we'll take a minute to answer some questions live for you guys. If there are any. And then I just want to ask, as you've prepared to launch this book, tell us a little bit about the inspiration, like why this model, and why did you kind of go after this type of process to bring as your first, book to therapists?
Yeah, well, this is for now my first, and maybe it's going to be the only book.
Okay.
But I just truly believe in the profit first system. So my team and I have been working with therapists for years and years, and we have implemented profit first many times over, probably over 100 times. And the thing is, profit first works extremely well. But I am one person, right? Even though I have a pretty large team, we can only work with so many people ultimately. And so to me, this book was a question of access. Like, how do we create accessibility for something that works so well and can really be a game changer in a practice when we can't do the work? We can't possibly work with everyone. So what I was really channeling as I wrote this book is, how do I get this information to as many people as possible in a way that is accessible, but also that gives them everything they need? So the book is Profit First for Therapists.
Yeah.
But there's so much more than just that in this book. There are things like compensation for a team or for yourself, how to pay yourself as a business owner, how to scale your practice, how to pay down debt. I go over how to add revenue streams, right? How do you manage your money while adding revenue streams? How do you handle a practice with more than one owner? There's just so many interesting situations that come up. And I felt like people really needed a guide that they could come back to again and again. So I also included things like tax basics, which are not exactly exciting, right? No one's excited about like, ooh, let me learn more about tax. But like, as a business owner, these are some of the things that you just need. So I added that in the back as an appendix, right? But there's tax basics, financial systems, like there's just a lot of foundational building blocks for finance.
Yeah, so it's got the great concept and the great process of the title, but it sounds like you've just jam-packed the entire thing with just, your years of knowledge, your years of resources, and try to make it, as accessible and easy so that way more people can have access to the best financial practices that you take the practice owners you do work with through.
Yeah. And I wanted this to be a standalone tool. So it's not like, oh, here's the introduction, but really you have to work with us to make this work. Like, you really could take this and go implement it on your own.
Yeah.
If you want to throw the keys to someone else and have someone else do it, we definitely can do that. But I wanted everyone, like every practice owner reading, to really have enough that they could do it on their own if they wanted to.
I love that. Does your, I know you brought some material today.
Yes. Let me share my screen real.
Because I'm certain Yeah, I was gonna say I have a bunch of questions, but I'm certain we're gonna be answering a lot of the questions by
Yeah,
just going
it's
through
the
here.
classic. Do we ask the questions or do we wait for her to just drop all the juice? Because I think that's what
Yeah.
she's about to do.
Yeah, so we'll let you share the secret sauce and kind of break it down. And then I'm sure that we'll have some questions along the way. Julie, kind of let you roll.
I think that's screen share is
There we
what you.
go. Yep.
All right, we got it. Thank you. All right, so today we are going over introduction to Profit First. You can see my screen, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So this is a picture of a sewing shop. And it might feel like it has nothing to do with Profit First, but it does. One of my earliest childhood memories is growing up in my mother's sewing shop. She had this little shop. This is not an actual picture of this shop, but it looked very much like this, right? My mother loved sewing. And so I spent countless hours touching everything in her sewing shop, hiding under the tables, doing all the things. My mother was an entrepreneur at heart. She loved nothing more than to start a business, all the fun things that come with it, right? Like picking out the things, doing the marketing, where is it going to be, the location. She loved that piece. But unfortunately, my mother never had a successful business in her life. The sewing shop eventually did fail. And it was a really, really difficult thing for my family every time that happened. Every time, the first one that I remember was the sewing shop, but there were more after that, where there's this really high of like, yay, we're starting a business, this is amazing. And then as it starts to fall apart, when there's no profit, money's really tight, and then just the repercussions after something like that happens, that was just always a roller coaster for my family. And so I always thought to myself, like, I will never be a business owner. If my mom could not figure it out, like, this is not for me, I'm not going to do it. Too much risk. I can't possibly make it work. If she can't make it work, I cannot make it work. But as you can probably imagine, eventually I did start my own business, in part with the encouragement of my wonderful husband. But when I started my own business, I thought to myself, like, I can't do this. I can't do it the same way my mother did. Like, I'm starting this business in part because we needed money in my family, right? Like, that's a very
Yeah.
normal thing. My family needed money, and I just couldn't be a burden to the family. I needed to actually bring revenue in, and so I looked and looked, and for me, the way was profit first. So as soon as I read the book, I'm an accountant, and I thought, like, this makes so much sense. How in the world did I not know about this yet? Profit first was fairly new at that point. So I implemented profit first in my business. That was the first place I implemented it. And I grew my accounting firm with profit first. So always at the speed of cash. We've never had a loan. And that's how I did it for my own business. But then I decided, like, what if I share this with my clients, and because it works incredibly well. So that's how the process started for me specifically. But then our clients were also equally successful with Profit First. So
Yeah.
that is where the whole thing started for us. So as you both mentioned, I am the author of the upcoming Profit First. It is available currently for pre-sale. Cover a whole lot of things in there, including a lot of very personal stories. So I really laid my heart on my sleeve for this book. I think it's important to note, I approach everything with through the lens of every practice deserves to be profitable. I think we don't say this enough. I think we have to do a lot of convincing for clinicians that they deserve for their practice to be profitable. Um, but therapists do so much good work in the world, right? I know I don't need to convince you, but there's so much guilt around that,
Yeah.
right? Guilt around, like, I can't possibly add a financial burden to my clients who already have this other burden, right? And maybe they already have financial difficulties. How can I possibly add to that? Therapists are helpers at heart, and they want to help people in a way that is sometimes to their own detriment. And so I don't think those things have to be mutually exclusive. I think you can be an amazing therapist and have a really high impact on your clients and your community, and you can also have a profitable practice. Those things can coexist.
Yeah.
I just find that too often business owners put themselves last It's not sustainable. I also would be so bold as to say that when you have a profitable practice, you are the best version of yourself in the therapy room. When you're not worrying about money, how am I going to pay the rent? Is my family going to be okay? Can I keep my kids in Taekwondo? Right? You're not worrying about all those things. And so this is the lens through which I approach everything. And a lot of therapists feel like profit is a dirty word. I just don't think that's correct. Money is not inherently good or bad, right? Money is just amplifies who you are inside. So if you are good, you will do, the more money you have, you will do more good. If you are a bad person, the more money you have will not necessarily make you a better person. So why do we do profit first? In part because your business income is not your take-home pay. There's a lot of different pieces to being a business owner. And it's easy when you are working for someone else, if you have a W-2 job, like what you make is yours, right? That is what you keep. Taxes are already taken out. You don't have any expenses directly. Your take-home pay is what you get to keep. In business, that is incorrect. If you have a $10,000 month, that doesn't mean there's $10,000 in your pocket, right? It
Isn't
just
that the
means
worst, right?
that's not, I mean, if you figured out how to do that, you let me know, and we'll replicate that. But in general, that's not how what it means. When you have a business, you have to consider operating expenses, certainly taxes, but you also need this cash flow for business operations. So just because you make $10,000, that doesn't mean you can take it all home. You have to pay next month's rent or next month's ads. You have to pay your team if you have one. There's other investments to make, and you also need just available cash flow in the business. Just because it's there doesn't mean you can take it all out. And a lot of times with private practice, we see money problems happen when either sessions go up really quickly, and then there's like, how am I going to do this? I need to hire billing. I need to hire another clinician. Or we see money issues when sessions slow down significantly. You're like, oh, well, I was expecting $10,000 this month, and now we're at $6. What am I going to do? So as a business grows, it is normal for its expenses to grow as well. But when things are out of control, that's when expenses can grow exponentially faster than income sometimes. And it's not uncommon for a practice to feel like a runaway train, especially if there's growth happening really, really, really quickly. And so one of the things where I feel really strongly is more growth won't fix anything, right? You can't usually, there's a lot of problems that you cannot grow your way out of. If there are systems that are inherently broken, more revenue will not necessarily fix that, right? If you have an unprofitable practice and you just keep growing it, it will not magically make it more profitable one day, right? You have to fix the problem before you can continue.
Yeah, I think that's a really important note just to pause on that I want to emphasize, because we see that a lot for a lot of the practice owners. And I think that principle applies whether it's to your bookkeeping and your profit mechanisms or to your advertising and many other things. Bad habits or broken habits that
Yeah.
appear in any part of your business only expand as you expand. Like they don't just magically disappear just because you get bigger
Yeah.
or you're doing more sessions or have more practice or have more clinicians on your team.
Yeah, and we hear this all the time of like, well, if I can just, right, if I can just ... if I can just hire one more clinician, if I can just get more clients, if I can just, then I will finally be profitable.
Like
And that
throw
simply
money at the
isn't true.
problem.
Well, yeah, like exactly, throw money at the problem. But if you don't have a way to convert calls to clients, more volume won't fix that, right? If you don't have a way to properly intake your clients, there's just so many problems that like if you grow them, they won't get fixed. So there in any size business, there's always some problems, right? But there's some that are more critical than others. It just sometimes feels like growing is the magic wand, and it's just not. It amplifies what's already happening. So when we look at top line, right, that's all the money coming into the practice. That is also called your gross income. Ultimately, the top line does not matter if you aren't making a profit. There's a lot of business owners out there, not usually therapists, that'll be like, oh, look at me, I'm making $1 million a year. But if you are making $0 in profit, it does not matter. I would much rather have a $10,000 a year practice or $10,000 a month practice that has a healthy profit than $1 million a year practice with like a 1% profit margin, where it's razor thin. Like there's so much less risk in that. So that top line often gets used as a vanity metric, right? But it doesn't really, if there's no profit, none of it really matters, because profit is what you actually get to take home. So profit first turns the accounting equation upside down. On the left, you have the traditional accounting equation that if you've ever looked at a profit and loss or P&L, hopefully you've seen this equation, right? Income minus expenses equals profit. And then within profit first, we turn that upside down. Income minus profit equals expenses. So we're carving out profit up front, and then we're making our expenses fit within the money that is left, right? So the profit is carved up front. How can you possibly do that, you may ask? Wait, let me tell you about the profit first principles. So there are 4 principles in profit first. And you'll notice that they are also nutrition habits. And I will be the first to say, I am not a nutrition expert. I am a financial expert though. And what is true is that there are significant similarities in how humans make choices about money and food. It's not just about one cumulative decision. It's about the hundreds of micro decisions that you make each day, right? The total of those decisions, that's what makes up your financial or your physical health. It's not just the beginning of the year, like, I'm going to spend less than I make, right? If you don't make those hundreds of micro decisions every day, every week, every month that are in line with that declaration, you will not be financially healthy. Josh, do you have something to chime in on? No, okay.
I was just going to say it's helpful and fascinating to look at the correlations of habits in other places as well, and just look at its cyclical actions, decisions that will carry the momentum of this being successful.
Yeah, and really, when we look at profit first, it truly is a habit. Like we make profit a habit. It's not an event, something that happens like at the end of the year on paper. It's a habit. We make profit into a habit. And so principle number 1 is we use small plates, right? This is also called Parkinson's law, because Parkinson's law says the demand for something will expand to meet its supply. So I know I was part of the finish your food generation. I grew up in the 80s, where if you are served a certain amount on your plate, you finish that plate, right? There are starving children in Africa. And so for me, what that means is, still to this day, is if I eat from a large plate, I'm just naturally going to eat more. Or I have to I have to spend a lot of mental energy thinking about, what am I going to leave? Am I eating the food, the veg or the starch? What am I leaving? How much? I have another bite, right? There's a lot of different decisions that are happening there. When I eat from a smaller plate, I'm just naturally going to eat less. The same can apply to your bank account. If you have one checking account where all your money lives, right, in one big plate, it's really easy for your brain to look at that dollar amount and say, oh, these are the resources that I have available. I am going to consume them all, right? You see the money you want to spend. That's how the brain is wired. And so within Profit First, we do that with bank accounts. We use 6 foundational bank accounts, or 5 or 6 in mental health. The first bank account is the profit account. As you can imagine, that's where the profit is going to live. Then we have the income account. That's where all the funds of the business are coming into. So all that goes into one account, no expenses. Then we have the owner's pay account. That is the account that is going to hold funds for the owner, right? That's a really wonderful thing. Then we have the OPEX account, or operating expenses. That's the account where we're going to pay things like dues and subscriptions, software, ads, rent, all those fun things. Then we have taxes, and we also have the payroll account. So when we're using small plates, we're earmarking each of these bank accounts for something very, very specific to make sure that we know how much money we actually have to spend. You'll see an example of that in just a sec here. Core principle number 2 is we serve sequentially. So within the Profit First system, all the money flows into that income account. There's a really magical thing that happens when all the money goes into one single account is you really get a sense of the ebb and flow of money in your business when it's not hiding among the rent, the payroll, the ads. Like when your deposits are just there on their own, it gives you a good sense of like, oh, it's Wednesday, there should be about this much money in the account. Oh, it's Friday, there should be about this much money in the account. It's so much faster to troubleshoot when something is not going right, when you actually have everything separated. From that income account on a regular basis, money is going to flow through to the other bank accounts, right? So on one day, it takes about 15 minutes. It's going to move from income to profit, owners pay tax, payroll, OPEX. One thing you'll notice here, these first three items, profit, owners pay, and tax, there's three accounts that benefit the owner directly, right? Payroll and operating expenses, those are to take care of the business, but profit, owners pay, and tax directly benefits the business owner. Principle number 3, we remove temptation. So I like to tell the story here of Google. You may have heard that they are a great company to work for. I maybe a little bit less in the last few weeks, right? They have reduced a significant number of positions. But one of the perks of working at Google is that they have free micro kitchens in their buildings. So you go, you get whatever food you want. It's all free. It's wonderful. And so one of the side effects of that is that for a lot of new Googlers, they would start working at Google and gain about 10 pounds on average because there's so much food available. So what the food team wanted to do is they decided we want to make it easier for people who want to make healthy food choices to do so, but we don't want to remove options. We don't want to make decisions on their behalf. So we want still people to have all the options that are available to them, but we want to help them if they want to make healthy food choices. So what they did is, at the time, M&Ms were the single most popular candy in their food kitchens. So they made an experiment. The M&Ms were in clear bulk containers, right? Kind of like the ones that you see at the grocery store, like those big bulk containers. You walk in, bulk container, you see the M&Ms through the clear container. So they said, let's move those to an opaque container, and we're going to put fruit in front of them instead. So those are two changes, right? Opaque container, you cannot see through it anymore, and fruit in front. That change alone in their New York office reduced M&M calorie consumption by 3.1 million calories in 7 weeks. 7 weeks. So they did not remove the M&Ms. They didn't take them away. They just made them, they removed the temptation. They're less obvious, right? When you walk in at 3 o'clock and you're kind of looking for something sweet, oh, the fruit is right here. Let me have that instead of the M&M.
Yeah.
So all that to say, like within Profit First, we remove temptation by moving the money out of the bank accounts. I'm going to put you on the spot, Attilio. When you see this bank account example, how do you feel?
Does it scare me, or is it
like, no, like, okay, so I'm going to give you a little more context. If you were thinking about making a $10,000 investment for your business, and this is your bank account.
Oh yeah, I would. I mean, I make $10,000 decisions all the time. So yeah, sure. I'd run it.
So like, yeah, go for it, right? No problem at all. Okay, what if you see it in this way? What if your money, this is the same dollar amount, but it's just split in a different way? So you have
I would have
7,500
way
in,
more thought. I would have to be a little bit more hesitant to make a decision,
right?
because I'm
Yeah.
starting to look at all my accounts. I got to figure out where the money's at, and it looks a lot less than 120,000. So yeah.
Yeah. And the reality is most business owners will, like, they're going to pull up their phone, they're going to look at the bank app, how much money is in the bank. If you see all the money in one pile, you don't have the context of, hey, there's 29,000 earmarked for payroll, there's 12,000 earmarked for tax. Like, it's really easy to not know that. And so when your money is split into 5 different accounts, you really have a whole lot of context for what is actually available to spend in this category. So you're not robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like, this is what's actually available. So I think, not that you wouldn't make that same decision, right? You might still do the same thing, but this provides you just so much more context on what's actually going on.
Yeah, if I had made that decision, if we're looking at that, I mean, we would be left with basically it would come out of profit, right? So we would have $1,000 at the end of the month instead of 11,000,
Yeah.
and just one small like different decision just on that one
Yeah.
profit account, assuming that you're not putting it somewhere else. But
Yeah, or if you were maybe making an investment out of
yeah,
OpEx, right? Like you would say, okay, we maybe we do this, but that means we have to take money. Like,
yeah,
are we willing to forego some of our profit to make this decision? So what I love about Profit First is it leverages your existing habits. So you're just looking at the bank accounts. It gives you a lot of information. Core principle number 4 is you enforce a rhythm. So obviously, if all the money is coming into that income bank account, at some point it can't just stay there, right? It has to move to the other accounts. So you just enforce a rhythm within the business, something that works for you. So money is flowing from income to the other bank accounts. In most cases, we start our clients at least with weekly transfers. I really like weekly transfers because it gives you a good idea of what is the bank account supposed to look like on Monday through Friday. You might not be looking every day, but I know a lot of our clients self-diagnose issues. Maybe there's a billing issue, right? If you're expecting on Wednesday, there's going to be 28,000 typically in the income account and there's 14. That can help you get ahead of a problem just so much faster as a practice owner. Right. And you can add a zero, take away a zero, but like that is really helpful information. Whereas if that's buried with everything else, it can take days or sometimes weeks longer to diagnose something like that. So you can look at a weekly transfer every other week on the 10th and the 25th and monthly. And I don't think the details of that is important, for the scope of this presentation. There's a lot more detail on it in the book, but like that's just kind of some of the basics of how the system is going to work. So
I
you
do have
use a
a
small
follow-up
plate.
question there.
Yeah.
With that, with a lot of insurance companies paying out at like different intervals and different speeds and pacings, what's your quick guidance or suggestions for practice owners creating healthy habits around the more sporadic or longer payout periods that insurance companies give, because it's not just, dollars in, dollars out on a weekly basis based off of sessions billed directly?
Yeah, it's not always direct correlation. And sometimes, like in some insurance practices, there really are situations where the money that's coming in is not there, and it is of no fault of your own, right? There that does happen, and there's a lot of situations where I do recommend having an additional account that's maybe an emergency fund, or some kind of backup money in the case that that does happen, especially for an insurance practice, even more so if you have clinicians who are maybe salaried, right, where you have to pay their wage no matter what. That can make sense as something to add, right? There's a lot of different ways that we can customize the system. But I would say this is always going to help you identify something faster, right? If you
Yeah.
typically, like if you see the ebb and flow, Blue Cross usually pays on Thursdays, but there's no payment this week. Like, hey, what's going on, right? You can start troubleshooting right then and there. Hey, Blue Cross, what's going on, right? Did something change? I know I was just chatting with someone this morning who said the way they submitted claims, like just changed with no rhyme or reason. It just did. And they had to go back and redo hundreds of claims to get paid. So that created a bottleneck. They didn't have the money they expected, but you can identify it faster. So I think there genuinely are situations where like there's nothing it's not your fault.
Yeah.
But if it is your fault, you will find it faster. So I do like an emergency
Nice.
fund for that, especially if that's something that's going to create a lot of peace of mind for the business owner. Um, yeah, and so that's one of the real big challenges of mental health. But so one of the beauties is that as you do profit first, or as you're moving money from one bank account to another, you're doing that based on target allocations or current allocations, which we won't cover today. And we'll have some information on that in the worksheet that that all of our viewers will have access to. But you're moving that money rain or shine, right? So that means sometimes there's going to be a little more than you actually need. You're going to transfer based on a percentage. If you've had a really good week, all the insurance companies have paid and paid on time or paid early, great, you're going to transfer more than you need. That's going to create a buffer in that account, which over time will help you in the cases where, okay, a payer didn't pay, we still have to pay our team. There's a buffer in there that's going to help you get through the leaner times. So there's kind of a built-in security mechanism there, which I think can be really helpful as long as you don't steal from yourself there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me. I really love this part of Profit First. When you're thinking of a spending decision, what you can do or cannot do, your decision making can be based in data and not emotion, right? It's not about, well, I feel like we should do this, or I feel like we can do this. Profit First is not asking you to change your habits and look at your profit and loss, your balance sheet, your statement of cash flow, because newsflash, no one does that, right? I'm an accountant and I barely do that. I look at my bank balance because that is what people do. I do look at my profit and loss on a very, and I do look at the reports at least monthly, but every single time I'm making a purchase, right, I'm not pulling those things up. So you don't have to become an accountant or become the super savvy financial person to use Profit First. You can leverage your existing habits to make better financial decisions. As I mentioned earlier, here's some of the optional bank accounts. We have an expansion account. I love that for a practice that is planning on expanding. Like if you are planning an additional location, maybe a brand new overhead position, like you're adding a biller, maybe you're planning to renovate some space, maybe you're adding a clinical director. Like expansion can be really, really helpful because if you're not able to carve out a little bit of money to save up, there's a good chance that you won't actually be able to pay that expense when it does come up, right? So it kind of helps you see, like, can we fit this into the budget? An emergency account can be a great addition as well. Future employee account, a bonus account if you are incentivizing any of your team members based on session counts, outcomes, right? Whatever it may be. If you're offering a bonus, you have to have the money to pay that bonus out. This is a great way to do that. For some of our practice owners that have PTO, continuing ed reimbursement, debt, like these are all great ways for them to make sure that they have enough money for those items as well.
Right.
So I do have a little giveaway for your viewers. If you go to profitfirstfortherapists.com/therapyflow, you can get our free Profit First workbook. So it has a checklist for getting started. It has target allocations that are going to vary based on the size of your practice. So it has details on that. It has the instant assessment, so you can figure out where does your practice start now, where do you need to start. So it's a great companion to the book, but you can also get a whole lot out of that as well. So that is available at profitfirstfortherapists.com/therapyflow.
Nice. Well, yeah, go and snag that guide. Check it out. Julie was
Yeah.
willing to put that together for you all. So I also imagine if they have any questions about that guide or any deeper questions come up as they're kind of diving in for the first time, posting that in the Facebook group where you're present in and other places, you might be able to pop in and help them take that a step deeper.
Absolutely. We also have a Profit First for Therapists Facebook group as well. So if you have like Facebook or Profit First specific questions, you're welcome to pop over there and join us. I'm also in Therapy Flow, so I'm happy to answer some questions over there.
Lovely.
Perfect. So what kind of questions do you have?
Yeah, I've got an interesting question with I love this, by the way. This is an awesome model, great visualization. I love how it helps you actually understand the real cash in real time, especially for the fast person who's not looking at P&Ls, right? Which most people don't. So I love it. I do have an interesting angle on speed. How do you think this kind of speeds up or slows down people, especially in smaller practices or bigger practices? I mean, we're making profits, so that's helpful, but that also means that we're probably sacrificing somewhere else. How do you find like the speedy clinician, or how can we leverage speed with this?
Yeah. How can we leverage speed? So in private practice, there is a low barrier to entry for the industry, right? You can have you don't even need a couch anymore. You can have a laptop, a few software subscriptions, right? And you're set up for telehealth. You're good to go. So I think in that sense, like it is a very easy to get into field. Within, other than the first maybe month or two, I think a practice should be profitable right away. Very few people are in a situation where they can afford to go multiple years without making money, right? There's some people who may have like the support of a spouse, but for the most part, these are not like VC funded companies where you've got what feels like an unlimited runway. Usually you are getting into private practice because you have to make money pretty quickly. So I would say I believe that within about 90 days, you do need to be making a profit so that you can start paying yourself, just from a sustainability perspective. If you can't get to that point, then it's going to be difficult to continue overall. I think from the very beginning, bootstrapping, at the beginning, bootstrapping is really important. And then making the shift to not bootstrapping is also really important as well. I think that is a big indicator of speed. After you kind of get your sea legs, and most of the time you're figuring out like how to put up your website or how to get your first clients, like you're figuring that on your own because you just can't afford to do all the things. Once you've got a kind of a base client load, a lot of times then it's time, then they need therapy flow, right? Like then you need to start outsourcing the things that you don't know how to do that someone else can do better, based in order of importance, right? A lot of times it's going to be ads, sometimes it's going to be billing, sometimes it's going to be bookkeeping. It kind of depends on like what your strength is. Whatever you're not willing to do, spend some money on. But pretty quickly after that, it happens. I'm a big proponent of growing at the speed of cash in this industry.
Yeah.
In part because you can get a loan, right? And I'm not mad at someone who's getting a loan to do things faster, right? If you need $100,000 loan because you're redoing a space that you can make profitable, more power to you. But if you are taking out a loan for operating expenses, I think that is a very slippery slope. It's kind of like, just putting a band-aid on it. Like ultimately, if there's something that's not working and you're not fixing that, you're just taking a loan, that is not fixing the problem. And we often see a spiral of loans like, oh, I can't make payroll. Let me get this loan. I get why. I completely get, and there's no judgment at all. But once that cycle has started, it's really hard to get out of it. So loans can work. I believe a line of credit at your bank can be a really good like insurance policy, right? If something's going wrong. But for the most part, if there is no money or no profit in the business, it is a symptom of something else going on. So I'm always okay with a practice having, for example, 1% profit because they're choosing to allocate to expansion, or they're making the intentional decision like this is where we're going to be spending our money now. I'm okay as far as owner's pay. I'm taking care of myself and my household. I am okay with having less profit so that we can do these other things for the future reward. A lot of our clients do that. I'm working with a client who opened her 4th location last year. And since then, the profit has been lower intentionally, right? We just knew like it takes 6 to 12 months to kind of get that up and running. We're just about there. So that's kind of how we think of it, Attilio. Like your owner's pay covers your day-to-day expenses and you should be okay there, right? Ultimately, that should pay for your household. Beyond that, how you decide to divide it is entirely up to the practice owner. And a lot of times an investment will make sense, but I'm cautious with loans.
Yeah, I pulled move at the speed of cash. For those of you who watch, move at the speed of cash, and then the allocation is kind of up to you. So the allocation on those buckets. So prioritize
in the workbook. We do have target allocations for each size of private practice. So I think of it as like solo practice, kind of here's what's normal. Small group practice where the owner's still doing about 50% of the work. Then a medium group practice. Once that shifts, other people are doing more than 50% of the work. And then large group practice, which is typically about $1 million in revenue or more. So we have allocations based on all 4 of those sizes. And it's a range, right? So you can decide like what is in line with my values, what is important to me. You can choose within that range. Ultimately, all the percentages have to add up to 100% because math, and you decide exactly how you want to allocate. Yeah.
Well, I know even in those four buckets of individuals, and just as practices are growing, they confront different, probably emotional problems on trying to execute this. So as we kind of probably wrap up our time a little bit, what mindset things, what encouragement things do you have for someone that will pick up for your book for the first time and are trying to figure it out, or for those people at the different size practices who are trying to be more financially healthy and just have more financial simplicity? Like, what do you have to say to those individuals?
Implementing profit first can be an emotional process. Just I find that just the action of really facing your financial situation for anyone, but especially for a therapist, can be, there is some emotion there. In the book, I actually cover the 5 emotional stages of profit first implementation. They are similar to the Kubler-Ross grief cycle, which has since been kind of revised and has received much criticism, but it is still very similar to the grief cycle, where you kind of start like, oh yeah, we're excited, things are going well, like, okay, maybe I'm going to do it this my way. Then we get into like, oh, this isn't working, even though you've seen positive impact, but there's this kind of resistance piece to it of like, oh, this doesn't feel good, I'm having to restrict some areas. But then once you push through that, you get through that, what I call the aha moment, where like you kind of see the light of how much better your business can operate. We have seen some truly transformational situations in my accounting firm. Like we have one client whose story is in the book, Stacy. Like she went from not being able to run payroll, right, negative $4,000 in her bank account, to today having all of her tax liabilities from the previous years are paid off. She's paying cash for her child to go to college. Like just complete transformation in situation in not that much time. So it can be emotional just to face the music, but I feel certain in my core that this is a system that works for
Yeah.
pretty much everyone in private practice.
Well, I imagine there's a lot of relief and simplicity if you're able to get through the other end, which will help
Yeah,
you run a better business. It will
yeah,
free you up to be more present in the things that will actually grow your business.
yeah,
Um, because broken books don't help you grow your business, that's for sure.
yeah. And there, I was recording a podcast earlier today, and we were talking about sometimes it feels easier to not look, right? To just, I call it ostrich syndrome, right? If you can visualize like that, the ostrich with the head in the sand and their bottom is up, and they're fully exposed, right? They're completely out in the air, their body, but just the head is in the sand, and they think like, oh, if I can't see what's going on, everything is okay. Um, but the reality is that is not helpful to anyone. If you're just not looking, you don't actually know what's going on. And as the accountant who's been in these conversations where they'll bring us a stack of unopened IRS letters, and we just look and like, okay, this is what's going on, right? And you can kind of see that, okay, at least I know now, right?
Right.
And the letters had been like taunting them on the table over here for weeks, and like just the fact that there's so much peace in that and security. And so one of the themes that came up again and again as I was interviewing people for the book is the peace and the sense of security that this has brought me. I never expected. It truly is a system for financial freedom because it helps all of the decision making as well. But there's unintended amazing consequences there too.
Yeah. And we know in all areas, when you're growing a business, decision fatigue is like you hit that point on a daily basis. I know I still do in my like there just comes a point where you don't have anything left in the tank to like do more.
Yeah.
And for many, and I put myself for many years in this category, like the financial business decision fatigue, would eat at me and make it less successful. So the fact that there is a system that works, that massively reduces that and simplifies that is phenomenal. And we're happy that you've done the work to help therapists apply this to their business model specifically, because it is a little bit nuanced compared to some other industries.
Yeah, and within Profit First, right? This is there is another. The original Profit First book is by Mike Michalowicz, who's also written Clockwork and Get Different and a lot of other very well-known business books. The system is amazing, right? So if someone has read Profit First before and they're like, oh, okay, I got this, like then you're good. But a lot of our clients were coming to us saying, I read it, I love it, I want to do this, but like I don't quite get how this translate to private practice. Like this is the key to that. It's exactly how you implement in private practice.
Beautiful. Beautiful. When's a good time for someone to get started with this?
Okay. Well, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today.
But your book
really
doesn't come out quite yet, though, so I don't know.
Okay, no, that's true. Okay, fair. May 2nd then is my
exactly.
best next time is May 2nd. There's a lot of resources on our website. If you pre-order the book today, it's already available for pre-order on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. We have a whole lot of freebies on the website on Profit First for Therapists. So you can get access to a mini course. You can get access to all of the tools and templates from the book. But ultimately, as far as like when in the life cycle of a practice, past that first initial investment, from that very first dollar earned, you can implement Profit First. I don't do it on the investment piece because I feel like when you're starting, let's say you decide I'm putting $5,000 into starting this business. I'm going to run some ads. I'm going to just get all my ducks in a row. I'm going to get an EHR. That is not profit, right? That's not income to your practice. Like that's what you should use for, it should basically go into your operating expenses account. But then from the very first dollar, you can start giving it a name. And I find that is really helpful.
That's great. Well, May 2nd is when the book will officially come out, but it's live for pre-order. I'm sure that in the coming months we will have another great conversation with you next time. So if you guys are looking for helpful, relevant resources, you guys can check those out on the links wherever you're watching this for her Profit First website, book, and then some of her other resources for the podcast and website and such. And just because of the time of year it is, Julie, I have to ask this. We are coming up on tax due dates and other things, and those are kind of always cyclical for business owners and such. But any tips of advice or words of encouragement for the business owner about to dive into filing taxes in the next month or two?
Okay. Words of wisdom. If you are a business owner, do not do your own taxes, please. That is my word of wisdom. Like I think if you work for someone else, right? If you just get a W-2, knock yourself out with TurboTax. They're putting out some great ads. There's some great Super Bowl ads too. A business owner doesn't know what they don't know. Filing taxes for your business is much more complicated than just filing an individual return. I've seen clients, for example, file the wrong form. Guess what? The IRS does not care if you had good intentions but did not file the right form. Once the penalties and interest are assessed on that, you would have been better off hiring a professional preparer. So I believe very, very strongly that there's some things that you can DIY. Taxes is not one of them when you are a business owner. It is today, February 15th. The business tax deadline is March 15th, right? For 1065 partnerships, 1120 S corps. This is the time. Get your stuff to your tax preparer, please. Pretty please. This is the time to start thinking of that. If not, and that's okay, you are probably going to be looking at an extension pretty soon here. As we get closer to the due dates. April 18th this year is the deadline for personal tax returns, including those who have a Schedule C, so a sole proprietor, LLC that's not taxed as an S corp. That's due April 18th this year. That will be here before we know it. So as you get your documents, right? Like I know I'm getting stuff every day, the 1099s, like all the mortgage documents. As you get stuff, like have a little folder somewhere. Maybe it's in your entrance, maybe it's in your kitchen. Just throw all those in there so you have everything together when you need it. That's going to make your tax filings a lot easier. And I would say, even if you haven't saved anything yet, right? There are some situations where maybe you're avoiding it because like, I probably can't pay. I really think just facing your fears, figure out what it is. Sometimes it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. And then your accountant can also help you figure out what's next. Maybe you can get on a payment plan and just knock that out. Maybe you can get on a payment plan and start saving for this year's taxes, right? There's a lot of different options that are available. You should still file your return even if you can't pay all the tax now. It'll take a couple weeks. You'll get a little love letter from the IRS saying, hey, you owe us this money, right? And then it gives you a couple weeks. You'll continue to accrue penalties and interest, but you can save up in those couple weeks, right? Like you can start thinking of, how am I going to make this work? There's a lot of power in just facing your situation so that you can do better next time.
Yeah. Shove it all in a folder. Face your fears. Now's the time. And when push comes to shove, just hire the professional. Those are my Julie's quick tips to tax season as we head into it here. So I love it.
According to the stats, the accounting industry has lost 300,000 accountants
I heard that today.
since 2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the kind of the news of the last couple of weeks. So if you haven't identified a tax preparer yet, like we are pretty, people are getting pretty busy. I say we, like my team, everyone is pretty busy. This is our season. So if you haven't identified anyone yet, the due date is not the day to be calling around, right? So you want to start maybe thinking about that. Start thinking about your extension, like just prepare for, there's not as much availability anymore. There's less people. And so that's okay. We can still get everything done, right? If you file an extension, you still have until either September 15 or October 15 to file. It can get done, but it's time to start thinking about it now if you want to file on time.
Definitely. Well, Julie, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time today, sharing more about the Profit First model and applying that to private practice ownership, and sharing some tax advice right at the end here as well. Anything else to leave our listeners and viewers before we hop off here?
Yeah, well, go get that free worksheet, profitfirstfortherapists.com/therapy flow. And if you have any questions about the book, you can find us on that website as well. You can pre-order directly from there. You can get some of the resources we have available. So go check it out.
Lovely. Thanks so much.
Thank you both for having me so much.